My name is Christian Basel. Years ago, I had an idea. I got myself a TARDIS. Took it to new places, met a lot of new people, took some great pictures, and talked Doctor Who. From Krypton Radio and the creators of the Hanging With web show, this is the legend of the Traveling Tardis. Join me on my latest adventures and become part of the legend.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Or for you new folks who may be just joining us for the very first time, welcome to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. My name is Christian Basel. I am the host and the driver of this Traveling TARDIS radio show for your enjoyment and my ship of love. That really sounded lame. I wish I could start all over. But no, we're going to continue on. And folks, thank you for joining us, whether you're listening to us on Krypton Radio, iHeart, iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, wherever you're listening to in the known universe, we welcome you to our show. And I don't do this alone, or at least I try not to. I got to do that episode one day. Just do an alone episode. Everybody would be bored out of their minds. So I've got my good friends here for this episode. I've got artiste Melanie Dean. How you doing, Melanie?
Hello, everybody. Hello, Christian.
Hello. And I have our resident author of the Rite of Wands. We have Mackenzie Flohr. How you doing, Mackenzie?
Hey, I'm here back from Michigan Comic-Con.
Now, how was that? How was Michigan?
To be honest, it was a bit disappointing.
Oh,
we had good guests. They had Neville from Harry Potter. That was really cool, and they had a couple of people that were dressed up. Well, I can't say really a couple, but there were several people dressed as Harry Potter. But I was expecting more Harry Potter fans. We really didn't have a good turnout this convention, and there's just so many things that went wrong with probably the date because they had we had multiple things start happening this weekend, and then unfortunately the con really couldn't recover from that.
Oh, really? So what was like the worst moment at that con? What was the worst moment at Michigan Con?
Oh, well, being in the vendors, it was most of us walking to other people's tables and saying, "Hey, how you guys doing? Have you made any sales? Have you made any sales? Oh, you're just like me. Well, how's the group over there? Well, here's a photograph. This is what it looks like." I think probably the most exciting was when security came upon some people that were selling a table, or they were supposed to be selling apparently TVs from Walmart that they had just bought, and they were doing some type of gambling. And of course, that's illegal, so they kicked them out of the show. So that was probably the most exciting thing all weekend.
Dang.
And then they find out later the televisions fell off the back of a truck. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my! Nice.
I'm
bored. Let's launch fireworks here today. I think the worst convention that I've heard about, or at least I actually was a part of, not just heard about, but part of, and I won't say their name just to be on the safe side, but I remember that somebody said I could throw hand grenades in any direction and not hit a single person at all. And I will say this, Mark Shepard was the guest. Now, I'm not talking about Mark Shepard now. I'm talking Mark Shepard at the height of his career with Firefly, Doctor Who, and Supernatural under his belt.
Yeah.
And I walked up to his table like there was nothing wrong and actually had a 2 to 3 minute conversation with him while nobody was showing up. And it's not for the fact that because he wasn't popular. It's because there was literally nobody there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just like, and the convention did a thing where they said, free tickets this Sunday. I've only seen that happen to 2 or 3 conventions where it's like, they did so bad that it's like, hey, if you want to come in, it's free tickets this Sunday. I'm just like, oh, well, that just probably upset people who bought the weekend pass for that one, but I digress.
We had a Wizard World Con here in Ohio that actually put out the advertisement you could bring multiple people per ticket.
What?
Yes,
wow.
I believe it was the one they have up in Cleveland. It was like last year or the year before. They actually had this thing online saying you could bring up to like 3 people per ticket because they, I guess, didn't make that many sales because I don't know what's going on. But, normally Wizard World's one of the big ones, but they do tend to be a bit pricey. Just a wee bit.
Yeah. And I just bring it my closest friends. And by the way, that's Dr. Freedom himself, Brian Burress. How you doing, Brian? Welcome back.
I'm hanging in there. How you doing?
I am doing well. I am doing very well because apparently this is supposed to be what I've been told a special day for me, but I am not addressing that whatsoever. I'm not going to say that because Mr. Brian Burress, Dr. Freedom, you're going to bring on the Who Knew News. Please take it.
another yard
laugh. I like it.
Another yard closer to the end zone. No. Yeah, for you folks who are not in Neo, it's Christian's birthday today. And it's a very nice time to have a birthday because you share a birthday with, let's get this list down here. Okay. This is like a laundry list, all right? We've got Sylvester McCoy. Anybody remember that guy? Sophie Aldred.
Maybe.
The late Anthony Ainley.
Uh-huh.
And also Barnaby Edwards.
Yes.
Woo!
So I affectionately called it the survival trio, which was Sophie Aldred, Anthony Ainley, and Sylvester McCoy, because they all three were in survival, which is kind of ironic. But go ahead, sir. I digress.
No, I was just saying, yeah, you should. There are pictures out there if you look around for birthday parties they had on set, and it's it's kind of weird, that your lead actor, your companion, and the main villain all share the same birth date. That's just kind of weird, kind of like the Force acting on Doctor Who there, But okay, let's get into the news, shall we? All right, first up, speaking of Big Finish, which we're going to be talking about tonight, Sixth Doctor and Perry will be returning in new audio adventures for 2020. Now, Big Finish have announced 4 new adventures for the Sixth Doctor and Perry coming August of 2020, and these will be set after Trial of a Time Lord and their audio adventure, The Ronnie Elite. Now, a lot of people are unaware of the fact that on Big Finish, the Doctor and Perry reunited in an adventure called The Widow's Assassin, and this was released back in 2014. And this is a much older, somewhat different Perry, but at the same time, same person at heart. So nice to see their pairing back up. Okay, nobody wants to say anything about that?
I think we were all waiting our turn or something.
Okay.
Exactly. It was like everyone was being very polite not to step over one another. We're like, and yay!
What do you guys think?
Come on, this is like Black Friday.
Get in. I honestly like hearing more and more about, that time frame of the Doctor, because he really wasn't given his due, I think, as much as you would hope to have seen during his run. So the more and more I keep getting him and getting Perry, I think it's just really great to have more and more stories from them. It's fun. It's invigorating.
Okay, nobody else? All right.
Okay.
Oh, no, I like to see. Well, I do. I do like to see the expansion of what could have been, because when we got from the first series to the Trial of the Time Lord, it just seemed like we kind of missed the character development, and I think it's because whoever was directing them, or the focus on the characters of being like this, this odd couple, or this, this married couple just don't get along. I think it was just getting a little bit obnoxious to some people, as opposed to they were kind of slowly getting to know each other, getting to be more comedic with each other, that it kind of just lost its fizzle. And then we finally get the Trial of the Time Lord, and we all see the end run of that, of their characters, where they're still at it, but they have a better affection for each other. Like, I think Colin Baker had made a mention in a documentary that he goes, they went from in one series to being soulmates in the other, where they were just being, best friends now. They were working off each other. And they finally got to talk about Perry being a botanist for once. That finally came in. The same thing with Melanie Bush. She was a computer expert. What did she do? She ended up giving a fitness lesson to the Sixth Doctor. So I'm like, we're finally getting to see the stuff that they were proficient in and being part of the story now, and I like that.
Right, you're getting to see more of the companions flushed out with what their bio sheet, says. So, the Wikipedia page saying, "Oh, I'm a botanist. I'm, the computer science." Now you get to actually see that in action, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. And I would, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say, plus, you had some of the characters who didn't really get a big chance to shine on the TV show, and they're getting a lot better dialogue and a lot better, material on Big Finish than they were before.
And I would just wish Fox would lower their shield so that we could have a Paul McGann with Chang Li and Dr. Grace Holloway series finally, and let them play for a while and let them develop and work off each other. But I guess we're not going to get that. So Fox, or is that owned by Disney now? So they own those guys. Great. All right. Well, we'll be at it for a while there. But what's the next item up our bids for us, Dr. Freedom?
Okay, Chris Eccleston, best known for his incarnation of the Ninth Doctor, has written his first book entitled I Love the Bones of You, My Father and the Making of Me. This is going to be his memoirs, and they're going to be published by Simon & Schuster, and will be out on September 19th. So I'm kind of looking forward to giving that a listen when it comes out on audio.
I was literally going to comment, hopefully that he does an audiobook with that. I think most publications coming out these days, like if it's got that publisher behind, like a Simon & Schuster, a Little Brown, Penguin, that you're usually having that audiobook companion with it. And typically you have the author of it actually narrating. So here's hoping that we get that as well.
Same here, because I've learned a lot from bios and all that of people who have appeared on Doctor Who. Like one I always recommend is First Generation by Mary Tam, if you haven't listened to it. She did it in her own voice. It was recorded just shortly before her death. And it's an amazing story of what she went through, coming as an immigrant to England and all that, her family. And it's just an amazing story. So you find out a lot about the people behind it. Okay. And lastly for today, I don't know if you guys covered this before, but this is one I covered recently. Apparently the Allendale Dalek has been spared. Now, if you don't know about this story, there was a Dalek that was, in Allendale that was made for this little sci-fi museum run by this family. And the shed they had to put it in because it won't fit in the basement apparently did not match the local specs. The good news is,
oh my God.
So they were telling them they had to take the shed down, therefore they'd probably have to get rid of the Dalek. And this has been an ongoing battle. Everybody's been hopping in on their side. I know like Sylvester McCoy has tweeted about it. Various other stars of Doctor Who tweeted about it. And now the good news is, they've been given a 1-year reprieve on the shed. So they've got time now to go back and hopefully deal with this so this doesn't happen again. So the Allendale Dalek has escaped extermination.
Yay!
Do you guys remember?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, do you guys remember down here? And they're actually friends of ours, the Motors. When they had their TARDIS in their yard and their HOA told them to get it out of their yard. I'm like, that's what it reminds me of. I'm just like, good grief. Are you serious?
I forgot about that. Yeah.
I know it's kind of crazy the things they nitpick about these days. It's like, like some places you can't have a garden in your front yard. It's like, it's just nuts. Well, the TARDIS offended me. Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
well, the TARDIS was supposed to be. Here's the funny part about the whole thing is to say you can only have vehicles in your driveway, and the Motors came up was that it's a TARDIS. It is a vehicle. I was just like, oh, how do you argue with that little claim there? But I think they finally put it in their backyard. We were at Tampa Bay Comic Con. I should ask her what's going on with the TARDIS because I know they moved it to the backyard and they have events going in and out of the TARDIS. They have friends come over, but I was just like, oh my God, it's of all the things, it really became a news spectacle down here in Central Florida. And in fact, there was a local TV station, CF News 13, who did on their website, you could vote whether the people should move their TARDIS or keep it. I'm just
moving
like,
TARDISes. You guys got some bills to pay. So that's it for the Who Knew News.
That's right. All right. When we return back, we're going to be talking about the Big Finish episode, Green Life, with John Barrowman and Katie Manning. So stay tuned. Thanks for sticking with us and become part of the legend.
Ceci Giltenan's Highland Solution on Amazon.com. Niall McGeehan needs the Lady Catherine Ruthven's dowry to relieve his client's crushing debt, but has no intention of giving her his heart. With a husband who does not want to be married and believes all women are deceitful, Lady Catherine must forfeit everything into the bargain. Can Catherine mend Niall's cynical heart before the treachery of others destroys them both? Highland Solution by best-selling author Ceci Giltenan, available on Amazon.com.
This is Cosplay Michael with the Hanging Out Club Show. I want to tell you about my friends at Embellis Effects in Orlando, Florida. They've got makeup, costumes, and props for all of your costume needs. And the team at Embellis Effects is helpful and friendly. Embellis Effects is one of my favorite places, and I know it will be yours too. I'll see you there. Or go to embelliseffects.com. And remember, cosplay is for everyone.
From authors Julie Morgan and Grayson Miller, and out of the great city of New Orleans emerges a detective tale to devour. The King of New Orleans is a demon who offers immortality for loyalty. The sheriff is a shifter with a badge who's lost his powers, and Natalia Cortez is the private dick who arrives to investigate a demonic killing. The rest is waiting to be uncovered by you. This dick is looking for a demon fuck. Pre-order on Amazon.com today.
In Terry A. Wilson's Slow Burn, Atlanta is a city straddling two worlds. Remington Montgomery is a modern dragon, the city's finest detective and most sought-after bachelor.
Day Ito was raised to reign as the Dragon Queen.
When fate steps in, these two are thrust together to reign as king and queen.
To make matters worse, Day's sister has gone missing, and the unlikely pair must find her.
The problem?
Well, it's complicated.
Can this royal couple set aside their differences and learn to work together?
Can they learn to be together?
Find out in the first of a 5-book series from author Terry A. Wilson.
Slow Burn, available on Amazon.com.
And hi there, fellow Whovians. Welcome back. This is Christian Basel with the Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show. Thank you for listening to us wherever you're listening to us in the Whoniverse. I'm here with Melanie Dean. I am here with Mackenzie Flohr, and I am here with Dr. Freedom himself, Brian Burress. We are talking about one of the most, I think, fun and incredible episodes I've heard in a long time with The Big Finish. This is called Green Life. It stars John Barrowman as Captain Jack Harkness and our favorite third Doctor companion. I wanted to see if anybody would argue with me on that. It had Katie Manning, who reprised her role as Jo Grant. Is it Jo Grant? No, it's Jo Jones now, right? Mm-hmm. At this point in her life.
Yes.
So it's Jo Jones. Okay. Jo Grant Jones, Jo Manning Jones, Jo Manning, Granny, one of those three out there. But, yeah. And,
as Ms. Grant.
Ms. Grant, if you're nasty. Anyway, going for their 10 traveling artists. Yeah. Melanie just gave me a dirty look. Going on our ratings for our 10, 1 being horribly bad, 10 being horribly awesome. We're going to go with Dr. Freedom. Dr. Freedom, how would you rate the number of traveling TARDISes for this episode?
I'd give this one an 8 because the pairing of these two particular characters was just incredible.
Got it. Melanie, what would you give? How many TARDISes would you give? How many?
I'm gonna mimic Brian with 8. This I was not sure what I was expecting because it wasn't a very long Big Finish audio. So I figured, okay, it'll be, it's almost episodic in its length. Like you would be watching it on TV. But it was just the play between the two characters. I would have never thought was just so great. And that Katie Manning still has this effervescence about her, this optimism that just kept coming on and Jack Harkness, Barrowman just kept kind of bringing it back a little bit, but which is funny because it's Harkness. There's other parts where he'll jump up there along with her, and then there's parts where he's like trying to balance it. It really, really works. I was extremely surprised and elated by how much I like this one.
All right, Mackenzie, what's your number there?
I got to go with the other two as well for the same reason. I love their connection with the two. To be honest, I haven't watched a lot of Jo Grant. Mm-hmm. I did watch some of the Third Doctor, and the particular episode that this is supposed to be coming from, I don't recall ever watching it. So going into from a completely having no idea what this story was or what it was coming from, right. It was really nice to see them connecting together. It kind of reminded me of a little bit of the Sarah Jane Chronicles.
Gotcha there. Well, here's the thing. So you're going for an 8 as well. So we're going for a flat 8. And as being the host of the show, I'm going to hold my number until the very end, just so you can listen longer and be surprised of what I put out there. So Melanie's giving me the good stuff. Yeah. Brian, I think if you've never, I'm going to go off Mackenzie's note over there. I think if you've never listened or watched Doctor Who, you could still get the gist of what was going on between these two in the episode, even if you knew nothing about the background behind them. If this was just a simple spin-off solo episode, Brian, would you listen to it? Would you understand what was going on without the history?
Oh, that's hard to say because, like I said, I've had the benefit, of being a big fan of the Pertwee era and whatnot. So I'm not sure how someone approaching this without that experience would pick it up because the second they mention Land Fairfax, you know where they're at. The second, the title pretty much gave it away, it's picking up on this other story, The Green Death,
right? Which,
since Mackenzie hasn't seen that, was Jo Grant's departure story, which was also a very touching one. But coming at it as a new perspective, it may take him a little while to pick it up, but at the same time, John Barrowman as Jack Harkness, and then, of course, Katie Manning, who's just, probably one of the loveliest people on the planet. Plus her character of Jo, even now at an older age, is, very identifiable to people. She's very kind, very easy to get along with, as that character. So, even someone coming into this new, I think they can pick up on it pretty easy.
Melanie, you gave it an 8, not a 10. What was missing? What would have gotten you up those 2 digits to get you a 10 rating on this?
It's actually a very good segue because I had not seen that episode with Pertwee. I didn't recall it, so I don't think I've ever seen it. Maybe if I did, it's been such a long time that gone. So what was the detractor was at the beginning, even though I did like that they just kind of jumped right into the action, so you knew what it was. There were a lot of things that you could tell were probably callbacks, where if you connected the dots, you would know what they were talking about. So I needed a little bit more explanation. But on the same, on the other, the side of the coin, the pacing of it was so good where, you know what, maybe I don't know what it is. I'm just going to keep following the story along and I'll connect the dots as I go along. Right. And I don't think it detracted from the story whatsoever. Again, I didn't realize it was, a companion piece or sequel, if you will, until at the very, very end of, they stopped the audio, it's complete. And then if you purchase it through Brink Finish, you'll get this little, I don't know, it's like 5-10 minutes of just the cast talking. And they were talking about how, Barrowman was talking about how he was excited because he remembers seeing this episode when he was a kid. And I went, oh, so this is actually it's a sequel. Oh, cool. That's awesome. But I didn't really realize that. I mean, I didn't realize it was a direct sequel. Let me take that back and put a little footnote on this because during the story, Boss knows who she is and that they start talking back once in another and she knows what the computer is. So at that point, it linked in that clearly these two have been together at some point, but I didn't realize it wasn't like maybe an ancillary kind of character throughout maybe the third's run, not an actual full episode. So now I'm after listening to this and again, Jo being just so optimistic, and I really, really liked how much energy she had. All I can think is how much energy did she have when she was younger? So now I want to go back and rewatch at least that episode first and foremost, and then keep going and keep going. This kind of gets me back into wanting to watch those classic episodes. So that's why it's as high as an 8. But because I didn't hear have the full in-depth background, I'm not giving it a 10 because it didn't maybe hit those notes that the writers were probably trying to spark within somebody who had known that information.
Gotcha. Mackenzie, you said you haven't seen much of the Third Doctor's run or much of Jo Grant. So hearing this audio and I guess you have some knowledge of the character, correct? You've seen a couple. Okay. How did it feel with this episode? Not having that experience, because I was going in the impression, but Dr. Freedom came up and he goes, no, it does need to have a background. So I was like, but I know you don't have much of the background. Did it still feel right? Did it still get the story across? Or did you have some issues because there wasn't much about it?
Yeah, I had some issues, especially with the boss character. I had no clue that he even was a computer. I was just like, okay, these two, obviously they know each other from back then, but I don't know who he is. I wasn't even sure that I wondered if it was maybe like a person from Colin Baker's run that happened to be there. I really honestly had no idea who he was. So that was the part where I really struggled with that. But otherwise I felt and this is probably because I recently watched an episode from the Sarah Jane Chronicles where I got or Sarah Jane Adventures where they had Jo Grant and Sarah Jane. And so I got a little bit more of the background, like when she was teasing Captain Jack about him being abandoned by the Doctor. I laughed at a lot of that because I was able to understand it from the episode from the Sarah Jane Adventures. But if I hadn't seen that, I probably would have been even totally lost from that and not even gotten the humor.
Gotcha. So it helps that we have the background knowledge of that. So this would not be something that somebody should go off the street who do not know either character, that they should have at least a fundamental understanding of both Captain Jack and Jo Grant or Jo Jones or however we want to do this. You wouldn't recommend this to somebody who's like, hey, you just first watched Doctor Who, you should hear this episode. That kind of just completely throws it off a bit there. They need some kind of background.
Yes.
Yeah, I think for me, knowing more, because this is a Torchwood episode, so if you know going in Torchwood, so you know Jack, I think not really knowing Jo too much, you're gonna be damn it. You're gonna be okay with this episode, because there is a lot of times where they're walking through the tunnels and everything, and they start having that banter because he's learning about her. Because he,
Right.
you know, when he asked, so were you just dropped off like Sarah Jane, or were you just kind of, I forget what he said about Rose, but I was like, my feels, and then her kind of stabbing back at him. So did he left you, to Mackenzie's point, you know, her saying, well, you know, abandoning you or, you know, leaving you. It was neat, at least knowing Jack, him asking those questions, it kind of helped develop the character, at least for me, to remember, oh, okay, this is who she was. I'd connect more dots.
Gotcha. So it definitely feels like we're in the middle of a conversation while it's happening there without knowing the backgrounds of there. Dr. Freedom, how well do you think this story drove the characters as far as their core founding value, the core founding values, but the core values that they have, each character, Captain Jack and Joe Grant? How did it feel? Did it complement them, or were there kind of challenges to it?
Well, they both start off, you know, getting to know each other quite a bit, but by the end of the adventure, it feels like they've gotten to know each other fairly well, and they kind of see where the other stands. That's what I loved about it, was the fact they bounce off each other so well. In the meanwhile, they're also learning more and more about each other, so they relate better. That's what I loved about it.
All right. Well, I'm kind of at a loss here.
One trivia note, though, for you folks who have not yet seen The Green Death. It's kind of weird because Boss never met Joe Grant. So the only thing I can figure they're going on here, the computer must have looked up her records or something later, because, you know, they never actually interacted in the episode, if memory serves. It was just Boss and the Third Doctor have this group of scenes together, but Joe Grant was in another location when that was going on, if I remember right. So, but, you know, the fact they brought Boss back, and it's kind of weird because Boss is kind of like the Harvard Business School version of Skynet.
Yeah.
At some points I was thinking almost like Kerblam a little bit when he was going on about how he was going to take over this and do this and we're going to do this. It just had a little bit of it, like it's pre Kerblam, like you said, like the Harvard Business School version of this is what we're going to do, and very, very by the book.
Yeah, I'm going to take over the planet, but I'm going to use a business method to do it, and that's basically what he was going on in the original adventure.
It's like the well-mannered war. All right, folks. Well, we got to pay some bills. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the Green Life. When we return, please continue to listen and become part of the legend.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
The Gift from best-selling author Ceci Giltenan.
An immortal spirit offers Cassie Calloway, a modern American heiress, the opportunity to spend 60 days in another time as another person, and the free-spirited college student jumps at the chance.
In 14th century Scotland, Tavish Ranald must marry. It is his duty. Can he marry Claire Morrison when another lass holds his heart?
When Cassie awakens as Claire, her new problem is Tavish. Join Cassie and Tavish as they embark on the adventure of a lifetime.
In The Gift, best-selling author Ceci Giltenan's
Pocket Watch Chronicles on Amazon.com. From author Sherry Rensselaer comes the Evening Bower series, a prophecy from the lost city of Atlantis, a pairing whose union will change the future. Magical creatures, prophecy, destiny, and love collide in a new kind of romance. It's Sherry Rensselaer's Evening Bower series, a haunting and compelling tale pulled from humanity's lost histories. Begin the adventure with Time and Blood on Amazon.com today. Forever is only the beginning. From author J.C. Layne comes Playing in Tune. As Mitch and Jess set about putting their lives back together, each of them is dealing with their own issues. Life marches on, and Peach Buzz Studios is abuzz with fans coming and going. Mitch continues to record his new album. Brett and Jess's new label, Crash and Burn Records, is about to debut. How will the aftermath of their ordeal impact their relationship? Can their love carry them through anything? Pre-order Playing in Tune by J.C. Layne, book 3 of the Back on Track series, on Amazon today.
And we're back. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the Back to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show. My name is Christian Basel. We're here with Melanie, Mackenzie, and Brian. Doesn't have an M in his name, so it's Mackenzie, Brian, and Melanie. Okay, never mind.
Swap out the N for M, Brian.
I'm just rebelling against everything.
So it's Brian.
Yeah, not even Dr. Dr. Freedom.
Freedom.
Yeah, just really hit that M like it stole something.
All righty. Anyway, let's get back to the review of The Green Life. I for me, I'm going to go back to you, Brian, because I think you're a little bit more knowledgeable about these two characters, especially Joe Grant. I love the banter. I think they wouldn't even have to have a bad guy. I think they could just sit there and banter against each other, and I would have listened to them for another hour, just bantering on and on. But not only that, I loved it when they had their little arguments, because it, to me, stated that the writers knew their characters and how they would interact. That was my biggest concern. It's like, I don't want this to be something like, wouldn't this be cool if we had Captain Jack and Joe Grant together in an episode? But it was a well done payoff to listen to this, because they stuck their guns. They stuck to the character. They stuck to their guns when it comes to characterization. And they would just, when they were bantering off of each other, they had their values and they stuck with them. So I was really, really, really happy to see that in those two and how they would interact. So what did you think of the interaction between the two?
It's kind of weird. You got Captain Jack, about his background. He came back and he's running Torchwood, and Torchwood doesn't exactly do things nicely.
Right.
Whereas, you have Joe Grant's character who's, become this hardcore environmentalist, save the planet, so happy, cheery, and, tends to believe the best in people. Whereas you have Jack who's like, very, I don't want to say the word crude, but he's very open, very, direct. Well, and so it's kind of weird seeing these two personalities hit. That's what I loved about it, was the way they just bounced off each other. This whole thing, it just knocked me out. But the fact they brought up the original message of the original episode, which basically was you had these things running around underground, and now you've got the other thing that was running it now underground with them. It's kind of a weird feature. It really is.
And there was a little bit. Well, what did you think of the banter, Melanie? Did you think it stuck to the writing well, and did the writing kind of contribute to their characterizations from what those two develop into their characters?
I really, really like their banter. I mean, if you stop and think about this episode, really the cast is very, very small, because it's mostly them until they come across the computer. It's just really them coming, and coming throughout the story and talking around and all that kind of fun stuff. That being said, I really could have done without Jack getting sick. I could have been fine if they just said, "Oh no, I don't feel so good." I didn't need the full Foley of him throwing up. I didn't need that. I was like, guys, just no. Why are you doing this to me? But I thought it was great. She was so genuinely concerned, and as he's saying, like, I'm dying, but please. Oh, and then the scene where he asks her to shoot him, and she's not fully still on board with him saying, "Yeah, don't worry, I'll come right back. I will feel better when I come back. I'm not, right now I'm in him imploring to her, saying, I'm in agony. Please, can you do this?" And her still saying, "No, it's still the same thing. I'm still taking another life of a person." You could really see all that compassion within her, and that she didn't want to do it. I thought it just. The banter between them was really great. I think them learning about each other's characters was fantastic. You could see that there was growth in not just in a camaraderie sense of way, but you could see that there's a friendship building between the two of them. So it would be really neat to see the two of them back again. I loved how Jack was developing an immunity towards the maggots, and the best way to spread it was the same way with the Ten and Martha, with the kiss, and then her going, "You know what? I don't know if it's really changed. If it's really stuck. Can you do that again?" And I'm like, "Oh my god!" And then the two of them started giggling through it. So I thought that was just even funny. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed listening to the two of them. I really, really did.
I could be totally wrong about this, Mackenzie. You mentioned about the bleh, Melanie. I don't know why. I could be totally wrong. This is just my perception. For a moment there, I thought that it was a reflection of what Joe saw as far as Jack's ideology coming out. Oh. Maybe I'm totally wrong about this. But you notice that some of the please, I could be totally wrong about this.
More words.
Well, what I'm saying is that how Joe was standing her ground and such like that, and she doesn't like violence, and violence doesn't solve anything. And I kind of thought that illness coming out into him, and I could be totally wrong about this. This is how I perceived it. was the disgusting things that Jack had that kind of Joe Grant saw in it, but she was still willing to work within it. She wanted to save him. She wanted to take good care of him, even though that some of his thought process, his ideology was kind of grossing her out. Evan's like, why would you do that, Jack? And this I think is also related to the banter. I could be totally wrong, and I'm hoping somebody else can actually elaborate better what I'm trying to say there. But what do you think about my hypothesis about that? I know everybody's looking down and going like, what the heck is Christian smoking this way?
I just wanted to add on that she'd been through something like this before.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch The Green Death, she gets trapped down in the mine with one of the mine workers and he becomes infected. And when you see the result of this on the screen, how this disease works, you literally start glowing from where this stuff infects you from. So you're glowing green, and as it spreads, it starts to engulf you. And she was trapped with this poor fella down there, and they've already seen another fella killed by this stuff. And it just kind of like, made me think, I was like, oh no, here we go again. Now I'm trapped down here again. Here's someone else I know that's now infected with this, and she's having to deal with it now, but she's able to deal with it a bit better with a bit of experience under her belt. She's able to handle it a bit better. But that's I
don't see that the sickness or the disease kind of spreading within Jack was like a motif for his own character, his character lifestyle, that kind of thing. I didn't kind of see that. I just see that the fact that this is just Jo. She's an environmentalist. Mm-hmm. She cares about the environment. She's the one that every time they kept going back and forth of whether or not it was venomous or poisonous, the correcting going back and forth. I thought that was hilarious. But every time that does happen, she's compassionate. She's compassionate through and through. So even when the bugs or maggots are coming at them, and Jack at one point says, I only have one more bullet in my gun, and she's like, good, well, I don't want and don't use it, and even when they start turning their heads, she's like, oh no, look, they're thinking, they're communicating, they know peace. I think the fact that she keeps having this innate hope that everything's good at its center, whether it's a maggot, a stick bug, or Jack Harkness, or that, to me, anything with any type of semblance of organic life in it, she wants to see the good in it, which another segue point, the fact that she didn't want to give any mercy to the robot.
Yeah.
I thought was kind of funny how here you have this compassion, but then with the robot, she didn't want to show any mercy. Meanwhile, Jack is like ready to kill everything because, it's poisonous. I don't want you getting sick. Blah, blah, blah. It's a maggot. It's trying to kill us. Boom. He's the one that ends up being the one that shows mercy to the inanimate object. So I thought that, to me, that was more of a big, motif through the story of here you have these two guys on either side, and then how at the end, during the resolution of the conflict, they switch. I see more of that rather than Jack getting sick being symbolism for something.
Actually, I think what you just said at the very beginning of your statement was trying to explain what I was thinking, and I think you just put it on paper.
Oh, good.
Right? I think that's what I think you were trying to do there.
I hope.
Melanie?
Yeah?
If you didn't know any better about Jack, would you have shot him?
Oh, God, yes. I'd take
it. Would you shot him?
I'm horrible. I'm a horrible human being.
Mackenzie, would you have shot him? Would you have shot Jack if you didn't know?
If I didn't know, I'm not sure because I've never been in that type of situation before. But if he was at the point he was just agonizing, maybe I would have.
Dr. Freedom, would you have shot Jack, not knowing about his...
Now, here's the thing. I have the benefit of hindsight. I've seen visually what this particular infection does to people. There was literally no cure for it. They had no way around it, and it literally engulfs the person slowly. So in that case, with my experience, with this particular, knowing the backstory, I'd have to say in that case, yes, I'd put him out of his misery.
Because I think it's not even having to know that Jack does come back. He literally goes, at length to tell her, this is what happens. This is the process. I've lived many years because I can't die. I keep coming back. It's not just hey, did you know that I can come back? Boom. No, I would get a little bit more to convince me.
Right.
And then be like, okay, clearly he knows what he's talking about. Because, you see how many other things that he knows what he's talking about throughout this whole thing, that she kind of goes on with trust with him. that's where I would be like, okay, I trust you. Yes. One would hope.
Go ahead, Brian. It looks like you had something to say.
No, I was just thinking, if you want a visual reference for the maggots, they had literally mouths, and they were modeled off of ferret skulls.
That's right. I remember that. I did read that.
Oh,
that
good Lord. What?
That's true.
The original maggot props were modeled off of ferret skulls.
Okay, I need everybody to pause their podcast, go over to the internet, go into your friendly neighborhood Google, and then go find this because.
Sean Pertwee recently brought this up because he actually got one of the maggot props as a kid, because his father, I guess, had gotten it for him, and they noticed after a while something was going on with the mouth.
Thanks, Dad. I got you a prop from who? Oh, really? What is it?
It turns out that they had actually off an actual ferret skull. So he went into that a bit recently.
I'm going to do my best Tim trailer. Oh, son, I have gotten you something from the set. What is it? Is it Bessie? Is it the TARDIS? No, this maggot.
You see, for some crazy reason, they were very into anatomy back then. Like the Drashigs were modeled off of dog skulls and all that stuff. So I guess they wanted to be, a little bit, well, I don't know why a maggot would have teeth, but, that's just me.
Crunchy. I got a quick question for everybody before we go to a commercial break. Do you think, or you know what? Let's take it after the commercial. I'm going to hold it off over to the commercial. So I hope, folks, we got to pay some bills, and thank you for staying with us. And we hope if you haven't listened to The Green Life as of yet, please pause the show. Get your download. It is a wonderful, wonderful episode that you got to check out over there. When we get back, we're going to talk about more of the Green Death, and you're going to get my take on what I thought of the episode. When we return to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, stay tuned, stay logged on, and continue to become part of the legend.
At Xavier Dominic's ManifestThyWill.com. Do you crave solutions to your everyday problems? Get rich, find love, and become happy. Xavier Dominic, master of the dark arts, may have the powers you need to prevail. Don't give up because other spellcasters have failed you. At Xavier Dominic's ManifestThyWill.com. Life does not have to be as hard as you see it. Xavier, an astrologist and psychic, carries out rituals and casts spells conscientiously, and he has the power to prevail in situations deemed impossible by other spellcasters. At ManifestThyWill.com, see for yourself the difference real magic can make. Go to ManifestThyWill.com today.
Eye of the Eagle by Sharon Buchbinder.
Shapeshifter Burt Blackfeather never plans to get seriously involved with another woman in this lifetime. So what if she's beautiful? So what if she gives him a jolt when she shakes his hand?
Phoebe Wagner, an empath with psychometric abilities, gets more than she bargained for with Burt. So what if he's hot? She doesn't need to add his secrets to her own.
When Burt's niece goes missing from a Hotel Lavelle, he and Phoebe decide to go to Montana to find her.
Can two hard-headed people share their darkest secrets in order to work together? It may be the only way to save a child and their own hearts.
Eye of the Eagle on Amazon.com today.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the final segment here, reviewing the Big Finish audio, The Green Life. And I've got a question for the team. Anybody can pick at this. But I want to know, if they had not met the Doctor, do you think their relationship would have been the same or a lot different if they didn't know the Doctor or didn't have that connection with the Doctor at all? Do you think these two would have gotten along at all?
Right off the bat, I can say I really don't know. You have to remember, when Jo first met the Doctor, she was very green, very eager to please and all that. But over her time with the Doctor, you can see an actual character evolution going on there to where she kind of grows up and becomes more of a scientist than she is an agent of anything. So I don't know. That's kind of a big question there, given the fact, they've both learned so much from the Doctor.
Gotcha. Mackenzie, do you think they would have still had that same relationship, or do you think it would have been a totally different thing altogether if they didn't even know each other or had that connection?
I have to go with my gut feeling. My gut feeling would tell me that they probably would not have completely gotten along. They may have gotten along on a aspect, but if they had never met the Doctor, more than likely Jack would never have gotten into Torchwood. So therefore, they wouldn't really have anything to talk really about. That would be relative to both of them.
Mm-hmm. So I meant just knowing the characters by their foundation core, do you think they would have gotten along, or do you think they would just walked away from each other?
More likely walked away from each other.
Melanie, do you think they would have stuck it out, or do you think they would have left? Or wouldn't even met?
Well, okay, so Ooh, okay. So when we first start the story, they're already together. So if they didn't know the Doctor, one, Jack wouldn't even be in this time frame, probably. He's not going to be in Torchwood. He's not going to be immortal. Joe's probably not going to be, and maybe she's still an environmentalist, but maybe not as a gigantic spearheading, because of her time with the Doctor, having those things at the character development, in her early years, maybe they would have never met whatsoever. But thinking that they still have those base characteristics from somewhere else in their lives, they were thrown together.
Just saying that there's no connection with them with the Doctor right now.
I would think so, only because I think at their core they're very, very both good people. Mm-hmm. Joe more so than Jack, only because he's more pragmatic, and then her being more of an optimist. So I think in that situation that if they're thrown in somewhere, they're both in a tunnel with a bunch of maggots. They don't really know what's going on. I think just the survival instinct for both of them would kick in, and knowing their characters, they would try to help each other. Yeah. But the finding that it seems like anytime during, whether you watch Doctor Who, you watch Sarah Jane, you watch Torchwood, any of the spin-offs, anytime you have two characters who meet one another because they can at least they have that commonality to start talking about the Doctor and what their lives have, they now have that common thing to start talking. Kind of like if you go to a con and you find another Doctor Who fan, you now have something to start talking about. So that's the thing where it's easy to say that they can start talking about and start connecting and start building off of that. Maybe they would have something else in common. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. So at least out of that situation, I think they would find a way to work out, and maybe that would be the thing of how they would stay and become friends. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's
a tough question.
Even how dare you pose this at the last?
If they didn't have the table ornament on the table, that's the Doctor. Could they find relation to where they could work with each other, or do you think it's like, oh God, he's like that, she's gross, or he's gross and she's like, well, she's being a nag, and I'm like, we're done here. So
I was just thinking, wouldn't it be ironic to find out if they both dated Mike Yates?
Oh God, Sergeant Benton.
Well, you know what? There is the scene where at the very end she ends up, asks him, "Hey, wait, you've been around a long time, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." That means you were around during the 70s, right? And they started going back and forth about, Zeppelin playing in the rain, and they started, regaling about I can't even talk. You know the word I'm trying to say.
Regale. I can't say it. Regale.
No, you can't say it. They start reminiscing about the 70s. There we go. So that kind of right there shows you that they were talking about the commonalities that weren't Doctor-ish. So mayhaps, I don't know. I think people should listen to the episode and let us know on the social medias and give us their feedback.
Well, speaking of feedback, I guess it's my turn to give you my rating, and
yes. What is it?
I put an 8.
Did you really, or were you just following?
So it's ESPN the Autos for all of us.
Yay!
No, I literally gave it an 8. I should actually just I used to give Sage the numbers beforehand, just so that nobody goes, oh, he's changed his number over time. That's like, I need to give it to one person so that they would know. But I loved the relationship. I loved the writing that supported the characters that I've known and loved. And they worked it out so well. And that's what I was talking about earlier with Brian, that they had their values challenged by each other. And I think that what's made the dynamic of the relationship so well. And when they finally had to fight the bad guy, their basic cores were being challenged. She had the gun with the one bullet. She's going he's going, shoot me. It's okay. Shoot me. Blah! So and she couldn't do it. And she stuck to her guns and no, this is not how I roll. And I can't tell you honestly why I couldn't push it to a 10, with the exception that I felt, and this is not a negative term. I'm trying to find the best term. I felt gypped. I felt like there was something missing, and that may not. I'm not trying to say that as a negative. I don't know if that should have been more character development. I think that maybe more time with the enemy, trying to figure out why they were manipulating things, or given more of a background for the two of them to work off of. I don't know, or maybe I wanted more relationship time. And of course, when they got to the kiss. And Joe wouldn't seem to let off for a while.
Because true, he does say, may I put you down now?
I think they should have paired her up with Gwen Cooper instead.
There you go. Oh my God. That kiss would have been very interesting.
Keeping faith. Oh,
well, exactly. But I just couldn't tell you offhand why I couldn't shove it to a 10. And maybe you three could help me out over there because you all rated the same thing. I just felt like, I don't know. I just felt like if there was something that could have defined it even more.
Yeah, I think it's a great episode. It's not of Big Finish. It's not good. But it's not masterful. And anybody playing the Harry Potter Wizards Unite game just got what my reference right there, in my rating. But that's what it is. It's great. It is really, really great. It's not good. It's not fair, but it didn't quite hit masterful. And it's okay to have, pieces of entertainment, Big Finish audios, anything that's great. You can have great and be ecstatically happy.
Well, one of my favorite episodes of all the Torchwood audios, and I haven't listened to them all. I'm sure one of them will change my mind. But one of my favorite Torchwood episodes is Fall to Earth, and all it is two people. And have any of the three of you heard of it yet? It's with Ianto. It's supposed to be post Cyberwoman.
Oh,
essentially.
So what you're saying is that this is something we should be listening to and possibly
I think you
review.
Should. I think you should. It was one of the first Torchwood audios. I was just like, and somebody said, trust me, you're going to love this. And all it is Ianto is stuck on a space plane. And the only person who can save his life is a woman on the phone trying to sell him insurance.
I remember that one.
That's how that premise is. And for her to stay on the line, he has to keep buying insurance from her the whole time, or else he's going to die. So she's going like, oh, I've been on the phone too long. Would you like to purchase this is insurance? Like, he's dying. He's about to die and crash into a satellite and come down to Earth. And she has to sell this insurance for her to stay on the line, but it is hysterically funny, and it ends in typical Torchwood ending that it just grabs your heart and rips it apart, and then at the last moment, and I don't want to blow it for anybody, but it ends the way that a Torchwood episode would end, and it's just two of them. But their characterizations are so good and so dynamic of each other that they play off so well. And I kind of saw this in the same way that Captain Jack and Joe Grant were. They were playful with each other. They were having a great time. But when it came down to the brass tactics, they were there. And just like Ianto and the woman on the phone, their cores were challenged at that moment. And when they got to know each other even more, it became all that worse when they found out their situations as they were developing in that episode. And I saw a lot of this more and more with that. And that's one of my favorite episodes. Just two people on a space, and one of them's crashing down on a space plane. Same thing here, but I couldn't rate this a 10. Something in me just couldn't give it all the way, and I don't know what it is. And I wish maybe one of you three know what I'm missing, because you all rated it an 8. Is there something that you would contribute? Is there something more that could have happened that would have boosted your number to a 10? To either one of you. I'm throwing this out. See? That's the
yeah,
answer.
I'm trying to think.
Nobody can have the so you all feel the same way I do. I just couldn't push the number up.
No, yeah. I mean, it's great. It's a great. I think if it could, for it to not be great and to become masterful, I think I would have needed more story. As in, given that there was only 2 characters in it, and if you kind of go with a third. If you added another character into the story, yes, there would have been more interplay, more conversations, more things that you could have had. You could have more subplot, because really, I think that was the thing. This is a story that's straightforward. You really you can't have more than, one real subplot, really. I mean, if you maybe squint and turn your head, maybe you could find another one within it. If you had more characters, maybe you could have more subplots, more that you can have more strings playing around and really have fun with, dance puppets dance. This could be fun. But I think because it's short and sweet and simple, I think it's just great. I think I don't think that they could have done anything to pop it for me from an 8 to a 10 without really severely having to change the bones and the foundation of the story, either by adding characters, adding more subplots, adding more, I don't know, scenes, different locations, that kind of thing.
So this is like a mid-episode version of like it's not in the episodes of Doctor Who. It's not the first episode. It's not the 13th episode. It's number 7, where it kind of bridges the gap between. Yeah. It's not a bad episode by any means. It's not a bad story.
No. That's it. It fills the gap.
Just not It's not the 13th episode. It's not the one that really power drives and brings home everything. Mm-hmm. It's something that just, this is great. This is awesome. Not one of the best, but definitely not one of the worst, and far from one of the worst.
It's like in comics, there's certain times where if you're reading a comic, like I was a big X-Men fan. I was a huge X-Men fan. You're going to have your big major arcs. Sometimes your comics are different stories here, there, and everywhere, depending which one you're reading. But once in a while, you'll have an extra, whether it's something small, at the very end of the comic, you might have another mini comic where you're having something that's based just on one character, and it's maybe like 4-6 pages long, and it's just short, sweet, simple. And they're utterly brilliant. They could have been better if you gave them the whole character and the whole comic, but they're just that perfect little thing to help flesh out a character's background, to help move a story along, or at least to know more about something that just fills the gaps and kind of just rounds out characters. And I think this kind of rounds out the character, especially of Jo, so that you know what she's doing more, now. So it kind of fills that without having this huge, gigantic masterpiece of, she's been doing this. No, she did this and this little thing, not little, but it's not the I was going to say Titanic. That's absolutely horrible reference. But she's not like one of those gigantic cruise ships that comes out of Miami. It's one that comes out of Tampa. It's good. It's big, but it's not so big that it can't fit underneath the Skyway. Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. It is what it is, and it maybe there's nothing to make it better. It's got an 8. It's good with it. There should be nothing more to be done with it, and it's a great story with great characterizations, with 2 exceptionally great companions out there. All right, well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode. We are running out of time, but let me get with my friends over here so you can find them. Mackenzie, where can they find you? I haven't had a chance, but Mackenzie, where can they get the Right of Wands, and which conventions are you going to be at next?
Ooh, so I'm going to be at Rochester. There's actually in Michigan, Rochester Hills is a public library. They're going to have a convention in a couple weeks on September 14th. As for, I haven't quite figured out what else for convention-wise I'm going to do for this year yet. It's still kind of up in the air. I'm also going to be at the Igniting Souls conference at the end of October. As for where you can get the Right of Wands, you can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, pretty much all the major sites. Even you can get a link to it right off of my website, MackenzieFlohr.com.
And do please check out the Right of Wands. Tell them the legend, the Traveling TARDIS sent you. Dr. Freedom, of course, anybody can find you on YouTube. Please subscribe to Dr. Freedom. He is the only Dr. Freedom on YouTube. Tell folks who may be new to Dr. Freedom, tell us a little bit about what you do, sir. You do the news.
Well, whenever I get news, I report it out there to the community, various articles and things from around the universe, and I like to share it with you. Also, I offer some commentary and all that and try to cut through the red tape and make sure, a lot of the stuff you get's accurate. So
definitely. And please subscribe to his channel because he does have live feeds every now and then. And you definitely want to catch up the latest news that Dr. Freedom has as he's presented here on the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS radio show. Now, I'm not trying to steal Melanie's thunder, but she and I are both going to be in 2-3 weekends from now over at Space Coast Comic-Con over at the Space Coast Convention Center, September 7th and 8th. Also, fingers crossed for us because we are running up against our fellow podcast, the Hanging with Web show for the Spacey Awards. So I'm fine either way because I'm kind of both on both shows. So I'm just like, okay, whoever wins, I win. Either way, I still get something out of it there. So Melanie, where can people find you coming up after Space Coast as well?
After Space Coast, after Space Coast, I'm going to be doing a lot more. I can't even think off the top of my head where I'm going to be. Cause this is like almost the end of my particular con season. So I start gearing up for Christmas. So right now, if you just follow me on social media, I'm going to be doing a lot more live painting. So I'm working on cause I've got a Crowley and a Zierfeld paste from Good Omens I'm working on. So I'm going to start painting, more live stuff like that. Right now, the other big thing is, again, Christmas, pet portraits. I'm starting to open a lot more commissions up because, again, my end of my con season's down. Now my commissions are opening. So lots of acrylic, lots of pets. Follow my social media. You can follow me, watch me
lots of
paint and all that kind of colors. All the pretty things.
And folks, if you're listening to us, don't forget to subscribe on iHeart, iTunes, wherever you're listening to it in the Hooniverse. Thank you for joining us. Again, please continue to listen always and become part of the legend. Blah!